Well, I'm happy to introduce myself. So my name is Shafia Monroe, and because of my longevity in the profession for over 40 years, and midwifery had already existed, but I'm considered queen mother of the midwife movement. I kind of lifted it up in the 1976 with two nonprofits that I founded. And so I became a midwife at 15. So I am a home birth midwife. I was certified later in life by the Massachusetts Midwives Alliance. I have done hundreds of births. I guess my most exciting thing is that I was able to catch my sister's second baby. I think I was like maybe 24. And then I also had my seven babies at home. And I was also able to catch two of my children's children. So I caught five of my grandkids. So I think every midwife is proud. They say that besides the outside world, you actually was a midwife to your own family. So I am like I said, home birth midwife for 40 years. I have my master's in public health. I've traveled the world extensively, have been involved with many movements around promoting midwifery and building midwifery. So I'm really proud that I think every midwife is proud when they can say that they have caught some of their own grandchildren. So I caught my daughters, and midwives don't say, we don't say we delivered the baby because we know the mother does the work. So we don't say we deliver. More in my era, we say we caught the baby. We give all the praise to God, but all the ability to the woman who had the ability to push her own baby out. So, but that said, I caught my oldest daughter's three sons, and I caught my other daughter's two children, and I helped my oldest son. He helped actually catch his own baby. I kind of helped him. So it's a wonderful feeling when you can, help your grandchildren come into the world and they touch, my hands. So that's one excitement of being a midwife. Also, child educator. Also, I said my master in public health have led many initiatives around midwifery. So my friend who passed away, Ayana Ade, who's an ancestor, she created a Black Midwives Conference that we did back in the 80s, and then she wasn't able to maintain it. So I picked it back up in 1990 and have put on over 17 international Black midwives conferences. And I think that's what has my name well known, because I was the one to bring Black midwives from around the world together, where we were able to champion our legacy, our history, learn from each other, support each other, and more importantly, mentor the up and coming midwives. Have created bills with challenging the white institution of not having Black tenure in these institutions, challenging why Black midwife students are burnt out and often quit the field because of what they experience around racism. And I just say, normally, my claim to fame is that I really believe that the Creator has me being led by my ancestor midwives. I feel that they want me to tell the world that they did good work. They did good work on behalf of the Creator. They helped everybody and anybody who needed help. They went with a good attitude. They did more than catch babies. They did advice. They listened. They brought food. They washed sheets. They comforted the father. They helped bury children. So I'm just really pleased that legacy what I have been promoting and pushing and believe in. It's my platform, my spiritual platform for over 40 years. And I was called to becoming a midwife at 17, 15, somewhere around there. I don't give my age, but my children are adults, and that's why people call me Mama Shafia, because I am a mama to many who choose to have me. Why midwifery? Well, I'm going to say right off the bat, why not midwifery? So that's my flip response that my mother would say. But I would say my community response, or my world response, is that midwifery is the first healing institute in the world. There've always been women who help women bring babies into the world. It's unfortunate that in America, we think of midwifery as something either very old and no longer in existence, or something new that has no legacy. And that's why I always talk about the legacy of the Black midwife. So if we know that life began in Africa, which it did, we can trace the first woman in Ethiopia. Obviously, she had children and someone helped her. And obviously, she helped children. So midwifery is universal. It goes for every single continent in the world. Every race has midwives. Women have always helped women. We're the first healer. And why midwifery? Because it's normal to have a woman help a woman bring children to the world. Why is there nothing against men, but why is there a man telling me how to have a baby who has not even had a menstrual cycle, never mind a baby? And so we bring that emotional support that is part of birth. It is emotional. It's emotional to love a baby, to raise a child. We bring that. We also bring the clinical aspect. We're able to look at your body and do your blood pressure and those things to let you know that things are going okay. But just to know as well that midwifery is a model. So we say, what is the midwifery model of care compared to the medical model of care? They are two different models. And the midwifery model of care sees birth as normal, with most women being able to birth their baby on their own. We call that physiological birth. Midwives believe and are taught in midwifery school that the woman's body is designed, as we know, to give birth, and with minimal assistance and a lot of emotional support, she should be able to deliver her baby, even a so-called 9 or 10-pound baby. Whereas the medical model is that there's something wrong with your body. You're not designed to do this. We have to interrupt with fetal scopes and cesarean sections and forceps and causing more problems. So midwifery, why midwifery? Because it's the best way to go. It makes sense. It's historical. It's just a good thing. I can't say enough about it. As a midwife, of course, I'm for it. But as a woman who's had children, I'm for it. As a person who has other friends and daughters, I've seen the results of those who've had midwives. We statistically look at the statistics. Midwives have less fetal demise, less low birth weight babies, less premature births, less cesarean section, less hemorrhaging, better breastfeeding rates. The family feels more empowered. Midwives support doulas. They know what doulas are. They recommend doulas. They work with doulas. So why midwifery? Because it's the best way to go to not just have a healthy baby, but to actually build healthy families. Midwives bring families together. Midwives support the family structure so that everybody is happy in the family. That's their job, to make sure that the family is doing well. When the family's doing well, the mother does well, and the baby prospers. And this is statistics. This is data we can look at. Okay. So the history of midwifery is one of my favorite subjects. I claim to be a self-made historian on Black midwifery, studying it for over 40 years deeply, like getting books, getting periodicals, interviewing people, reading all that I can. And so, as I said prior, that midwifery is a universal profession. It's a universal healing. All of the world has midwives, Europe, China, South America, and even America. So in the beginning, there were only midwives. And then in Europe, the male barber decided that he wanted to get in on the business. This is European history, not African American or African history, but the European male wanted to get involved in midwifery. And he began calling the white midwives, the European midwives, witches, and actually burning them. We call the burning of the witches. They were actually women who were considered healers and midwives. And they took over the profession, which is why when you think about someone delivering your baby or catching your baby, you think use of a male doctor, because they took over. They pushed the women aside in Europe. That is not the history of Africa, and that's definitely not the history of African American midwifery. But I have to give that history to understand why today we don't know what midwives are. Because when the Europeans came to America, they brought that same tradition with them of not really respecting midwives. So they dominate women's bodies right now. They dominate the birthing space. They're running it. They tell you to lay on your back, your baby's too big. And so that's not our history. So the real history is that we know that midwifery in Africa was, again, women-centered work. You were either, delegated by an elder. You have good capabilities. We want to train you. Follow around for so many years and then go out on your own. We came on the boat, believe it or not, from Africa into this country as, I say, prisoners of war or kidnapped people. We did not come willingly. But as they captured the people, they captured blacksmiths, they captured educators, farmers. They also captured healers and midwives. So we know for a fact that on the plantation where women were forced to have children to sell, it was the African midwife who remembered what she did in Africa. And she would bring what herbs that she could find that were similar, have them birth in squatting positions, even would tell the so-called plantation owner and the men too, we'll pick cotton for her. So they want to get up. We'll take the lashes for her. They really reverend and worship, not worship like God, but really reverend motherhood, which is why when you look at African art, it's normally a lot of women with children, babies on their back, breastfeeding. They understand that motherhood and mothering is a high level vibration order. And we don't see that here. So there's a lot of respect for the birthing woman during that time. And then there's a lot of respect for the midwife in the African tradition, because the midwife is the one who is responsible for the health of the mother and the baby. And so, of course, they took good care of them. So we bring that same respect into the African-American midwife, and what we can see for her as well from my readings, they said that most midwives surpass the level of respect over the pastor, meaning that you went to someone's house on Sunday, the Sunday dinner, the pastor would get the big plate. The midwife came, she would get the big plate, because often that same midwife delivered that pastor. So it was a lot of respect for the midwife, because she was the pillar of our community. She really was the one you went to for everything. But like I said, marital problems, stomach ache, babies teething, women's problems, meal problems. She was well organized in her thought and ability to help. She was respectful. She was kind. She was confident. So that's why there's so much respect for historically the Black midwife, and that history of her being a healer of her community, bringing someone that brings people together. I love the fact where when someone had a baby, it was the midwife's job to let people know in the neighborhood, oh, Mary Lou had her baby, and women knew what to do. They would come with pots of food. They would clean the house. They would bring wood for the fire. That's before we had our gas stove. People had, fireplaces. So we really depended on our community to take care of that family. It was very successful. Unlike today, we have a baby. The doctor doesn't say, oh, by the way, neighbors, Mary had a baby, go help. Like, okay, see you later. Here's some resources. But the midwife, she was that connector between the community and the family. And it's the community, by the way, it's the Black community that has to rise up to take care of the family. We're not going to see it happen with just medical systems being fixed. Everything has to be fixed. Because when I leave the hospital, even with the midwife, I'm still coming home. Who's helping me at home? Who on my neighbor can I turn to bring me food, to come keep me company, to hold my baby? And so the midwife taught all that. She taught motherhood. I think a big thing that we miss out, that midwives just didn't catch babies. They also taught us how to be good parents, how the father should be, how the mom should be. We're losing that. A lot of people I see as a midwife, they don't know how to parent, because for one, we're in an era now that we hardly have children. I know folks have never seen a baby born, never held a baby, don't have any small cousins. They're just like scared to death to even have a baby. So the midwife kind of alleviated all that and reassured people, built confidence, exuberated love among each other. And so that's our history of loving, champions of birth, educators, community connectors, and skilled practitioners, coming all the way from Africa to the South, and here we are today. Yes. So the difference between obstetrical care and midwifery care is very minor. I want people to understand that we think that, oh, the doctor is better. The doctor's been educated differently, we want to say. He became a doctor. He did 4 years of college, 4 years of medical school, and 2 to 3 years of his specialization in obstetrics. So basically 10 years to learn, unfortunately, that birth is a scary thing for them. They need to sedate the woman and take over the natural process. So, and they are surgeons, obstetricians are designed for surgery, hysterectomies, removing fibroids, cesarean sections, doing a episiotomy. They're really surgeons. So natural birth really has no benefit for them, just to sit there and let the body do its work. In my opinion, they went to school for 10 years, not just to do that. Now, granted, there are many excellent obstetricians. My first home birth, I had a male doctor. I could not find a midwife, and he was great. He did not touch me. He let my body do what it needed to do. He did not show up. He was in the other room sleeping. He must have heard me pushing. He came into the room and said, okay, let's go. And that was it. Dr. Eli, never forget him. I could not find a Black midwife in my town at that time. There were no Black midwives in 1978 where I lived. So they have a role, but it's been a lot of change now. The midwife, on the other hand, has gone to school to become a nurse, 4 years. She gets her Bachelor of Science in Nursing, a 4-year program, and she will apply to a master's program, wherever there might be one in the country, and there are many, and she'll finish her 2 years, and she'll come out as a certified nurse midwife. So that's one type. The other type is what we call a certified professional midwife. That person does not become a nurse. And by the way, you don't have to become a nurse to be a good midwife. Africa, China, and parts of Europe do not require women or people to become nurses first. They require them to study midwifery and become a master in that. So in this country, we call that a certified professional midwife. That person will read. She may go to a particular kind of school to learn. Then she'll find a apprentice, or we call a preceptor, where she will follow that midwife around for several years and learn from her, take a test. When that test passes, she will then become a certified professional midwife. Then we have midwives who don't do either. They just learn from an apprentice. They're called to do the work. and they're doing the work. So, but I say there's only one kind of midwife, but you want to ask what's her educational track. So she might have chose the nurse midwife track, she might have chose the certified professional track, or she might have chose learning from a traditional way. But they're all doing the same thing, providing high quality care to the pregnant woman, offering blood pressure, checking her urine, fundal height, palpation, talk about breastfeeding, breast exam. The difference is that she spends more time talking about nutrition, talking about her emotional status, how's the family doing, giving hugs to her client. We often call family members or friends as opposed to a patient. I think that's a big thing too. In medicine, they say my pregnant patient. Midwifery says my pregnant client, because we believe that you are not ill when you're pregnant. You're actually doing a very historical, since the beginning of time, having a baby. So it's not a toothache, it's not a migraine, it's not cancer. You're just having a baby. And if we didn't come along, most births are problem free. Really, most births are problem free. The other thing I think is really great about midwives that's very different, they really reduce the fear and build confidence in the family who's going to be bringing a new baby into the world. Whereas in the medical model, it tends to be there's something wrong. You know, they call it now geriatric. You're 32 years old. You're considered a geriatric client. You know, you have too much weight on your body. Your baby's too big. There's like always something wrong with you. When midwives say, hey, you're doing great, baby's growing good, just keep walking, keep drinking that water, take your prenatal, get your blood, you're doing great, see you in a couple of weeks. You're just doing great and everything's going to be fine. So all that positive talk creates the hormone called oxytocin that does make your body go into labor correctly, as opposed to seeing the fear. And just to really say that being a doula trainer, being a midwife, I talk to women all the time, and I'm always hearing there's something wrong. They're not sure this, they're not sure that. I'm constantly having to reassure them and send them back to ask a question again that helps them realize that, oh, there's really nothing wrong. So I think that's a big difference. The educational track, but more so seeing birth as normal, empowering the family, helping them see that they have the ability to have their baby the way they want to have their baby with a physiological birth. What's happening with healthcare as it relates to healthy birth for Black women, I kind of rephrase it, and also infant mortality. What's happening is not a good thing. We're seeing an increase of Black women not living to raise their children. I just want to say, first of all, it's all women. America as a continent is not doing well. We don't respect women, period. So white women are dying, by the way, increase, Asian, Latino, all women dying at a higher rate compared to Finland, Denmark, Norway, even Cuba. So that's the first problem. Then when you get to Black women, it's even higher. So, it's 2.5 times higher than it was for white women. The other issue is that most of the illnesses or causes that Black women are dying from, according to cdc.gov, it could be prevented. I repeat, 60% could be prevented. That's huge. That's 6% of women who should not be dying. That it could not be happening. So the main reason that we're saying is that it's simple. Black doctors not listen to Black women. I have a headache. I think because headaches is like a sign of high blood pressure. That's the problem. I'm bleeding. I just don't feel right. Oh, it's fine. Go home. Go home. I've been following this now for over 10 years, and the stories I've read where a woman goes to the hospital 5 times with her mom, a double PhD, by the way. These are highly educated women, even if they're not no, but they can advocate, they understand what's going on, saying, I'm not feeling right. The blood pressure is like 100, I think it was like 190 over 160. That's very high. They sent her home. Of course, she stroked out and died at home. There's just so many stories like that of the neglect, not listening to Black women, sending them back home instead of keeping them in and doing the full work on them. Or the stories that we hear where the father says, Mr. Johnson, who's now suing this particular state, my wife doesn't feel okay. And the nurse goes, we don't have time for her. And she dies literally in front of her husband. Or the boyfriend tells them recently, my girlfriend doesn't feel her legs. Well, we can't wake the doctors up. She dies. So this is all neglect. With midwifery, it would definitely be different. If we have midwives, the care is different. They're going to listen to you more. They're going to find these problems ahead of time. You're going to be less prone for having an epidural, and a cesarean section, those kind of things that are causing some of the problems. We're going to look for pregnancy-related issues ahead of time. So checking your blood pressure ahead of time, giving you quality prenatal care that's detailed to say, hey, I'm seeing this going on with you, and explaining what that means. Your blood is low, you're anemic, it should be this number. How do you want me to help you? How do you want me to help you, empowering that person to get your blood here? So if something happens, you don't go into shock. Or your blood pressure is high. This is what it means. How can I help you to get it to where you want it to be? So it's that empowerment as opposed to, you need to do this, we'll do a cesarean section. So midwives make a difference. And I just want to add too, that we also want to talk about preconceptional health. What state are we in as Black women before we get pregnant? And I think midwives talk about that too. So talking to our daughters at 16, 17, 18, 21, and our sons, are you on a good diet? Is your period normal? Are you anemic? Do you have any signs of pre-diabetes? Let's take care of that first. I think community midwives really educate, as I said prior with the Black midwife, she was an educator. We don't wait for the problem. I think that Black midwives can empower their clients to advocate and ask the right questions that do have an OB. Because what we're seeing for Black women, because we're considered high risk and always a problem, they won't let us have midwives. So when you're high risk, you have to go to an OB, as opposed to, they say that low risk women can get a midwife. So they're cutting it off. So I would say right away, as I always say in these meetings, I don't think being high risk should prevent a woman from having midwifery care. She can have midwifery care and still have consultation with the OB. She doesn't have to be 100% under the midwife care. The prenatal care is still possible, even the catching of the baby. There's a problem, we'll call the OB specialist in as needed. So we need to work on, because that's too many Black women being pushed into the obstetrical line of care. So yeah. So what are the top 5 benefits of midwifery care for Black women? Well, 1, she's Black. And as a rule, Black folks understand Black folks, no matter what class we might be. And as a rule, number 2, is going to keep our blood pressure down. 3, we trust Black people. So when they say do something, we're more inclined, or they suggest something, we're more inclined to follow through because we trust them. We don't have that Tuskegee COVID shot, whatever we carry with us, that mistrust that is historical, is going to eliminate that. 4, the studies say that a Black pediatrician increases the life rate of a premature baby compared to a white doctor. That came up recently. So a Black pediatrician, you have an early baby, is more prone to live with the Black doctor. So the same with the Black midwife. I'm more prone to have a better outcome with the health of my body, my birth, my life, by having a Black midwife. And then 5, by using a Black midwife, I help generate wealth in the Black community. I'm paying a Black person to provide care for me, and that money is going to circulate in my community. And one of the problems we have as Black people is poverty. Poverty is a problem. And we have to understand that as Black people, we need to buy Black and shop Black. As my mother taught me years ago, the Jewish money goes 17 times for Elisa's community. They don't go buy for me. They buy from another Jewish person. The same with the Chinese. But we don't support each other. And if you don't get money in your community, you're not going to make it. We're relying on tax and the census to give us the numbers to bring resources in, but we have the ability, as we did in the past, to generate our own income. So if I have a choice to pay somebody for my birth, that $5,000, that $1,700, or that $25,000, I'm going to get me a Black OB first. I'm going to get a Black midwife first. Then second, if I need a doctor, I'm going to look for a Black obstetrician, a Black doula, a Black childbirth educator, a Black lactation consultant, a Black nanny, whatever it's going to be. We need to keep the money in our community. So definitely using a Black midwife to use her services. That way she can keep her services going. If we don't support her, she's out of business, and we lost a gem in our community. We have to support them. How to find a midwife. It is challenging because there's not a lot of midwives of any color in the nation. I believe I don't want to say it, but it's a low number. So it's low for midwives of all colors, but I believe it's 1.6% for Black nurse midwives. And that's the most dominant educational route. So 1.6 is very small. And then for the home birth midwives, it's also small, but we're still out there. And so if you're going to have a hospital birth, the first thing you want to do when you call and say, hey, I'm pregnant, I want an appointment, you want to say, I want the midwifery department. And I'm going to say, whether they're Black or white, go to the midwifery department, because there's still women as a rule, and it's pretty much the same philosophy that you are empowered. It may not be perfect, but as a rule, you're going to have a better experience. So ask for the midwife department. They say your insurance or, your age, or say, really, I don't want to hear it. I want to have a midwife. Don't let them discourage you. If you're already pregnant and you're just finding out that you have midwives in your hospital, it's never too late by law to change over. You're a health consumer. You're paying for a service. They don't own. You can say, you know what? I'm 8 months. I know there's a midwife. If they'll take me, I want to transfer to the midwife department. If they say you can't, say I want to talk to the press. I want to talk to the manager. Again, you're a health consumer, so take your power. If you want a home birth midwife, you want to put the word out. I would say whatever state you're in, I would look for the Friends of Midwives. There's almost one everywhere, the Friends of Midwives, and ask them, where are the home birth midwives? There's social media to look at. You can go to Sister Midwife, Nicole Diggins, certified nurse midwife, African-American midwife in Louisiana. She has a site called the Black Midwife Directory. So she has names of midwives who are Black and doulas all over the country. Is being built up. So you can talk to your doulas, but don't give up. It can be kind of for some people it can be kind of stressful in the beginning or seems challenging, but we are out there. We are looking for you. Like this day, I need a Black midwife. Somebody find someone, and someone's got to pop up for you. You deserve the best. Well, culturally complicated. If you're Black with a Black midwife, you may not need to worry about that so much, because that's the great thing. We understand each other's rule. There's a trust. There's a universal experience of how we've lived in this country. But if they're not Black, then cultural competency means that provider has been trained to understand your language, which, so if whether it's good morning, sir, to what's up, or how you doing, whatever it might be, they understand that. They speak in a way that's respectful to you. They don't make assumptions about you. They include the family, if you choose, in your care. They take the time to learn about your culture and your community culture. So that means if I come in and it's a white doctor and I'm a Black woman, they're not going to say, what's up, girl, but instead, Miss Smith, I'm glad you're here. Have a seat. Let me know what things you need. They're not going to assume that, which, by the way, was a big issue with the new movie out called Aftershock, which talked about postpartum care that Spike Lee's wife, whose name I can't remember right now, helped produce. And in that scene, the mother, her daughter died from postpartum hemorrhaging. They called the ambulance to the house, and the ambulance kept saying to the mother over and over and over, "Is she on drugs? No, something's wrong with her." They bring her to the emergency room. The doctor say there, "Is she on drugs?" Every Black person is not on drugs, you all. So that's the thing about being culturally incompetent, those assumptions. We're on drugs, we don't work, we're not educated, we don't know who the baby's father is, all these myths and rumors that make them treat us as second-class citizens, which results in the death of our children and the death of us as well, in the medical field. So culturally competent would be the complete opposite. There's something wrong. I believe you. Tell me what it is. I'm not going to say, well, when's the last time, you smoked, took a drink or shot something in your arm. We're not going to do behind your back drug testing on you. So cultural competence is important. And I would ask my provider, if they're not Black, have you taken cultural competency? And I'm also telling women now in my doula training to tell your clients to say to them, hey, have you heard that there's a high rate of Black women dying as a result of choosing to give birth? And if they don't know that, I would want to find somebody else. That's across, and they should know that. If they say yes, next question is, what can you tell me? What can you do to protect me from dying as a result of my child? Because you're paying them for a service. Their job is to give you care and do the best they can. If they can't say how they're going to answer, I'm going to make sure that your blood pressure is okay. I read the statistic. I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to respect you. I'm going to let you know what's going on and give you choice. I'm going to give you options. I'm going to be there and make sure nobody bothers you. I have my staff is amazing. They're also not going to be, unculturally competent. So you want to ask those questions, make sure they're culturally competent, because that does make a difference. So I don't want to ever blame the victim, but a mother of 7, and thank God I made it through all my births. Of course, I had home births. I had Black midwives, except for the first birth was, as I mentioned, was a white male doctor. But just going to give you my personal story. And I'm blessed because I'm not in a food desert. And I know there's real challenges, but no matter where we are, we have to figure out how we can access good food, whether we have to grow it ourselves. We have to have high quality food. So we have to be able to have our 90 grams of protein a day when you're pregnant. You need to have dark green vegetables 3 times a day minimum. You need to drink water. You can't be around secondhand smoke, alcohol. You need to gain, if you can, 25 to 35 pounds. These are things that we do. Make sure that our hematocrit is the right level. Make sure that we're walking at least 2 to 3 miles every single day. These are things that we did before integration. Integrate. When we were segregated, we lived in rural areas on farm. We only could afford to grow greens. So yes, I'm so sick of I grew up on greens. They're so healthy. You know that down south in the 50s, there was no osteoporosis. Black women did not get lumps on their back. They had so much calcium from the diet they were forced to eat by being farmers. So we need to go back to, we walked. When you walk and bang your body, double dutch, having to use a pump, pounding fufu, all that makes calcium form in your bones. So walking heavy, getting the green foods, like I say, eating the proteins, that's going to be a big thing because we could have a problem. Like I could have bled in childbirth also, but because my hematocrit is normal and I did bleed too much, it's going to prevent me going into shock. But if I'm already low iron and then I bleed, it's just not a good story. You go even worse. So you want to make sure that you are as healthy as you can be. Being in a positive relationship, they say there's 3 things that ensure, not mature much, but ensure a full-term baby is having a good relationship with your mother, wanting the baby, and having a good relationship with the biological father. So make sure that we are choosing, we're not stressed out. So all that's good. Now we go to our white job every day. And actually, the women who are getting the most problems are actually considered educated women because we're the only Black lawyer, the only Black midwife, the only Black electrician. We're dealing with that systemic racism, which is toxic. So you have to find the outlet. Maybe it's finding a support group. You can, download on your girlfriend, give your boyfriend or girlfriend a break, get a therapist, journal. But I'm a Black woman. And yes, it's exhausting having to constantly defend yourself and tell them that's not what I said. That's not what I meant. Don't put words in my mouth. No, that's not true. We spend more time just fighting for the truth that we can't even get our jobs done. So you're pregnant doing all that. By the time you get home, it's going to cause medical problems. So find out how, and I don't have the answers, find out how you can find that healthy bubble. People walk, people journal, people go back and they scream, they beat their pillows up, they quit their jobs, they work for themselves, they fight the HR, they get a lawyer. There's so many options, but the question of how can we take care of ourselves, make sure you have the best nutrition possible, that you're physically active, you have a support group. You don't have to be married for a healthy baby, but you need to have loving people around you if you're not with your partner. And then make sure that the environment that you're in is not toxic. If it is, figure out how you can protect yourself from the toxicity. And then last, know that you have rights to ask questions, to change doctors, to change providers, to make complaints. It's called informed consent. It's your body. You have the right to say, I don't want that done to me. What's my option? They can't make you. They try to bully you, but just like try to fight back. And I've heard some horrible stories where the doctors are cruel, like, well, just get out. Literally tell you to get out. I've seen people on Instagram walking out, true stories, with their baby because they refused treatment. They're walking out 2 minutes after they gave birth. That's not okay. That shouldn't be happening. So I hope I answered the question. Nutrition, good attitude, find a midwife, definitely get a doula. Also take childbirth classes. We need to know how our body works. Don't be pregnant and figure out at the end, is this labor? Find out what are the signs of labor? What is my body doing? How can I work with my body? So that way, if they're educated, it drops the fear. And you could advocate for yourself and take better care of yourself. You know what's going on. The baby's in your uterus. It's not in your stomach. You don't feed the baby when you eat food. It goes to the umbilical cord. All this stuff means something. So definitely don't use social media for education. Enroll in a qualified, preferably Black childbirth education class with your partner, your mama, your best friend, your oldest daughter, son. We all need to learn this stuff and have a joyful birth. You deserve, again, the best. You have a right to be a mother. This thing of genocide, I call it genocide, allowing Black women to die in childbirth is a form of genocide. It's deliberate because if 6% prevention and we're still having this conversation, there's a problem going on. That midwifery care, what should we know about midwifery care as Black people? That midwifery care is Black care. Midwifery care is the beginning of Black healthcare. Midwifery is the beginning of the Black healthcare system coming out of Egypt or Kemet. It's the dominant way that we care for ourselves in Africa, in the Caribbean, and in the United States and the South. Know that Black midwifery care is on its rise. It's coming back. There's more and more Black women. I'm so proud to see so many Black women entering midwifery care. I'm so proud that so many men understand that midwifery care is good for their daughters, wives, mothers, sisters, and girlfriends. I'm glad to see that they were having this conversation. So what we should know that every Black woman deserves a midwife. Every Black woman deserves a midwife, and we want to have a Black midwife every 10 blocks. So look to find birthing centers in your community, get involved, and see what you can do to get midwives in your community. We need them to be among us, to live among us, to see the real change that we're seeking.